Fortnite is a game based on luck, and sometimes players can experience the worst luck ever. From dying underneath the map to riding an enemy's RPG, here are the unluckiest things to ever happen to Fortnite players. Toyski decides to use a vending machine to buy a purple scar, and less than 5 seconds later he dies from walking into a room with a trap. You can blame him for not paying attention and being careful, but at the same time, you gotta feel bad for the guy too. When players die, there's a futuristic-like thing that sort of disintegrates the dead player. Anyways, in Paradoxal's gameplay, we see that his shots are actually blocked by this thing. Numerous shots miss the guy he's shooting at because of that thing, and makes you wonder if this is a glitch or supposed to be done on purpose. Everyone has goals when they play Fortnite, and getting a 20 kill game is definitely on a lot of people's list. FurionLol was on the brink of achieving this after he headshots a guy for 199 damage, but instead of dying from the shot, the opposing player backs into the storm and dies from it.
No!
FurionLol's 20 kill game literally disappeared right in front of him.
Are you actually kidding me?
At the end of Season 3, there were comets that randomly flew through the sky and hit the land. During an intense build battle, Raven's 0824 was getting the high ground on his rival when an unlucky comet comes crashing towards his building and breaks everything. He falls to his death because of the comet, which is just plain unlucky. At the end of the game, it seems like the fights are always about explosive weapons and launch padding. When you combine the two, it can be a pretty hectic battle. In this situation, Jangoon uses a launch pad trying to get closer to the last guy, but instead the enemy uses his grenade launcher, which blows up at the perfect spot for him to secure the victory. Playing on PC is a lot easier than on console because you have a keyboard and mouse instead of a controller. In this clip, Tahavik dies because of the fact he uses a controller. Hiding in a bush, he sneaks up on a clueless player and is ready to unload on him. His controller disconnects and the enemy turns around and eliminates Tahavik instantaneously. There was a time when Fortnite servers were really bad. In this gameplay, we see a perfect example of it when Thanks Zach is just casually playing and looting a mountain. All of a sudden it says that he is eliminated himself. What happened? Well, it turns out he was unlucky and was just lagging really bad the entire time. Sometimes getting a chest might be a bit troublesome. Schlagman tries to go for the chest on the bridge near Lucky Landing, but instead, when he jumps on the tires and falls off the bridge to his death. He had really low health to begin with, so he should have been careful, but nonetheless, it was still pretty unlucky. Grabbing a supply drop is always a toss-up, but in this clip the drop literally goes into the ground. Converted X13 runs up to open an airdrop when it seems like he is unable to. Trying to clear the debris around it, the airdrop vanishes into the ground. His reaction shows just how unlucky and bizarre it was.
What the f just happened?
Sometimes nothing is better than instant karma. For this Twitch streamer though, it was pretty humiliating and unlucky. After calling the guy he is facing trash, he dies from him instantly.
You're trash! What?
On his stream, you can see his reaction as he tries to play it off, but it's just embarrassing and unlucky for him. After killing his opponent, Ant-Man decides to dance on the body and loot of his fallen foe. Of course, this is to humiliate and make fun of the guy he killed, but the bad thing is that he did this in the wide open on top of tilted towers. He gets sniped seconds after, and you could say he probably deserved that bad luck. Nothing's more annoying than a player that constantly builds in front of them while you're shooting. What makes this player even more annoying is when he seems to snipe you out of nowhere. On top of that, if he emotes after, you could say he's the most toxic player ever. Well, R10 did exactly this, but he got what he deserved. He dies from a trap trying to loot the fallen opponent, and you can hear him scream in frustration.
Oh.
Having a teammate that is vengeful is one of the best qualities because seeing the player that killed you being killed is always great. JH Replay in this case is the unlucky player that needs to be avenged. After killing a player, his teammate decides to break the clock tower beneath him, so when JH Replay breaks beneath him, he falls to his death. The player even emotes on him to humiliate him even more. Clingers can be both effective and risky. CJM Games knows this because in an interaction with a player, he got stuck by one of these explosives. Using his quick thinking, he runs toward the unlucky enemy, taking him with him to the grave. Even though it was unlucky for the carbine skin, that's what he gets for trying to kill CJM Games with a clinger. Back when smoke grenades were in the game, it was pretty difficult to pretty much impossible to snipe someone who was hiding in the smoke. Even the players in this clip acknowledge this, but right after someone says this, they get sniped.
Dude, there's no way these guys can snipe us with this much smoke. Yeah, put it on. Okay.
It was a lucky snipe for the sniper, but for these players it was very unlucky. Myth is dubbed as one of the most famous players in Fortnite, and in Ninja's tournament in Las Vegas, everyone was excited to see how Myth would perform in his first event against Ninja. Unfortunately, the young architect dies from fall damage from a very unlucky ramp placement that made him jump in a weird way to fall to his death.
Above a flush, so I was gonna just play that early down early. I got the early game. I was gonna play the high ground early, and then.
One of the most popular Fortnite-related Twitch clips ever is one of KOG using a blue pump on an enemy that she landed with. The enemy is just standing there and dancing because he knows that he's dead either way. The streamer aims at his head and shoots, but it only does 95 damage. You can see how surprised she is at just how inconsistent the pump is. Losing from a glitch is one of the worst ways to go out in a game, and Chris H16 experienced one of the rarest glitches in the game, where he goes completely underneath the map. After he gets under the map, he is unable to get back and is even blocked from building anything that would help him get out. He just leaves the game because he's stuck in this weird state. When the Thanos limited time game mode was still available, it was one of the most fun and unique experiences. Most of the time, being Thanos meant absolute victory as long as you used him right. Palau got really unlucky when he tried to power jump with the Marvel villain. Instead of fighting the enemy, he smashes completely through the portafort and goes into the storm to die. Before the crossbow was in the weapon vault, it was considered one of the worst weapons in Fortnite. So when you landed and found one, you immediately searched for something better. Egghead instead gets 3 crossbows in a row from 3 different chests.
Crossbow first chest. Who would have thought?
Oh, you're a cracker. Ow.
Back-to-back crossbows out of chest.
Okay, shoot the kid with this AR over here.
I have 2 crossbows.
The chances of being that unlucky are really small. Grenades are actually useful when you're in a tight situation, but sometimes players throw them by accident. Unfortunately, Abdullah Archaic got the short end of the stick when he accidentally throws a grenade in his 1x1 hut just after picking up his player. He tries to build a door and run out before the explosion kills him, but there's a parking meter right in front of the door that blocks his path. Before I reveal the next example, you should subscribe if you've enjoyed this video. We upload amazing fact-filled list videos daily. Also, make sure to click that bell icon to stay updated, or you'll regret missing out on some amazing knowledge that could have filled your brain. Now let's get back to it. Chances are you might have experienced a glitch in Fortnite where it seems like there's an invisible wall blocking you. Well, for MLG Ninja Kiwi, he witnessed it firsthand right after he landed. A player was stuck in a doorway, and with the help of another random player, they axed him to death. Dying from a glitch is always unlucky. Getting a kill after you edit something can be the most satisfying way to kill someone because only skilled players can do that. Gymstick99 did just that in editing his floor so he could fall down and shoot his opponent right in the head. He then runs to get his loot only to die from a trap. Oh no! How unlucky. But then again, he should have been more careful. Emoting after killing an enemy can be humiliating for them, but it is quite fun to do. Vitality G2 did the classic clapping emote right after eliminating his opponent with a hand cannon. However, moments later he dies from that player's trap. Karma can be really unlucky sometimes. Vending machines can be quite useful sometimes, especially when there's a golden scar in one of them. The only downside is that it costs a lot of materials. Sully Mister learned that the hard way after spending a while getting enough wood for the scar. He buys it, then afterwards the first chest he encounters has a golden scar inside of it. Talk about luck. Rocket riding is one of the most fun things to do in the game. What's not so fun is what happened to Kimfraz's rocket ride trip. While engaging an enemy, this player jumps and coincidentally lands on a rocket that the enemy shot. The RPG goes soaring into the side of a hill and he gets instantly knocked. Nothing is luckier than landing and immediately getting a golden scar, arguably the best gun in the game, but landing mixed with the game lagging is probably the worst combination ever. GG Perfect Phaser knows exactly this when he lands in Tilted Towers and spots a golden scar. He lands on the weapon, but his game lags and he lands on the ground instead. Nothing is better than being a solo player that single-handedly takes out an entire squad. Spack Daniels almost does this after his teammate dies, and in this clip we see him kill 2 people pretty quickly. Another guy is right on top of him, so Spack Daniels edits the roof to make the enemy fall. It seems like an easy shot. Unfortunately, he messes up and dies. Building is the most important aspect of Fortnite, but sometimes it can be so inconsistent. In this clip, we see an entire squad fall to their deaths due to a weird placement of the ramp.
Oh my god. I fell off too.
Oh my god, there's no way out, guys, I'm trapped.
Revive me.
Guys,
I'm dead.
I'm trapped.
We all fell here, revive all of us.
What makes it even funnier and unlucky is that an opponent decides to come and loot their bodies, but does the exact same thing and falls to his death.
If he runs out of wood,
If he runs out of wood, I'll be the happiest person on earth.
dude, it's gonna be so funny.
Oh my god. I can't believe he actually did this.
Yeah, he
How
did.
much resources did he?
Oh!
Everyone knows the pain of landing and finding no gun whatsoever. Spinout209 experiences it in this video when he lands and finds absolutely nothing. He's being chased by a guy who's shooting at him, and he finally opens a chest and gets a scar, but dies right after. It's like Fortnite was kicking him in the face.
This guy's got a gun, I ran right past him. No way. Oh shit. I need a gun. Oh, I got the scar. Oh man. Oh no.
Getting an airdrop is always exciting because you never know what you're going to get, and there's always that risk of getting sniped by an enemy. But what you don't expect to happen is what happened to UNLUCKIEST. He runs to the supply drop, and when he opens it, nothing appears. Imagine if that happened with a llama. How unlucky can you be? Getting your first solo win is the most nerve-wracking and high-pressure situation, but it's also the best feeling ever. Skipper Rico was just about to get a big W until the game suddenly kicked him out. There was then a message that prompted that the servers were undergoing maintenance. The timing couldn't have been worse. The last moments of the game are always the most intense. Bubble Boy 130 is in a situation where it's 4 versus 1, and he manages to kill 3 players, making it a 1v1. He is one more guy away from the clutch, but gets lasered by the last guy in the most unlucky play. If only he pulled off that win.
Yeah, kill that one. Yeah, that one. What the? He's going towards you. He's going towards you. He's going towards you. One's coming towards you.
Using a grenade to kill the enemy is always risky. Nebula Neptune decides to use the grenades to kill his opponent, but in the process he destroys the floor below him. Unknowingly, there's a trap right underneath, making him fall to his death. If only that trap wasn't there. So, who did you think was the unluckiest? Has anything like this happened to you? Tell me about it in the comments down below, and thanks for watching.